the greatest draft of all time. Well, maybe it wasn't. But we do like the Eagles draft, and we've got Jimmy Kempski from PhillyVoice.com to come on and sing Howie Roseman's praises as well. We've been doing it for the last couple days. You got a bar or two that you can sing for Howie Roseman as to how he continues to fleece? Yes, I used the word fleece, Howie. Fleece other general managers around the National Football League?
So I do think Howie's done a very good job this offseason in general, of course, the last two off seasons. And I thought he had a really good draft.
Yeah.
I have seen, I don't know if I can mention WIP, but I guess I just will because I already did.
Sure. Jody works there. We can do that.
I mention WIP all the time.
Yeah.
They had a poll up. Who would you, if you were starting a franchise, who would you draft first? Howie Roseman or Patrick Mahomes?
Oh, come on. No, I did not see that one.
Come on, man.
Yeah.
I had nothing to do with that. May get a paycheck from him, but they did not consult me on that particular poll.
Yeah.
So let's chill out a little bit with the Howie love to that extreme. But yeah, I mean, certainly he's done a great job. And it was, in my opinion, the best roster in the NFL last season when they went to the Super Bowl. And if you look at them right now, they're probably the most ready team for the 2023 season in the league. So it's a very good roster. They're going to be very good again this season. He's done a great job. Again, I thought he did a really good job in this draft. But let's pump the brakes on a little bit of the hyperbole there.
I'm excited, Jimmy, because I see Jimmy Kempski's dog. I think for the first time. I'm a big dog person. So let's get introduced.
It's Charlie.
Yes, Charlie. Yeah, Charlie. Charlie likes Howie Roseman, I can tell.
Hey, buddy. High five. Come here. Hey, there we go.
Yes, Charlie. Love it. Now that is a first-round pick. Charlie looks like a first-round pick to me. I've been looking for, because I'm tired of it too, Jimmy. I'm tired of giving Howie his flowers. I'm looking for under rocks to criticize this guy, and I can't really do it. And then I start. I'm sure you saw the Peter Schrager thing where he said other GMs are getting upset about all the people lauding Howie Roseman. Well, why are they making it so easy for him? I mean, I looked at three young general managers. I looked at Ryan Pace in Chicago. I mean, what are you doing? You need Jalen Carter. So I know from a perspective of, he's a young, he probably doesn't have the leash that Howie Roseman does. He can't take chances. So he's got to be a little bit more cautious. You asked Howie about that in one of our press conferences with him. I don't know if it was off the record, but at this point, he's got a longer leash than other GMs. So how important is that when it comes to taking chances, when it comes to doing things for the long term, whereas other GMs have to GM for their job, for a lack of a better term?
Yeah, he downplayed that. That was during an off-the-record session, but he downplayed that, the idea that he has like this incredible job security. He said that he's not on scholarship, which we both know, like he is, of course. Like he has better job security than maybe any other GM in the NFL. The owners aside that also double as their GM. But yeah, I think you see that with a lot of his moves. Like a year ago they trade one of their first-round picks for a future pick, which they ultimately made this year with Jalen Carter. And of course, along with that, they get an extra second-round pick from the Saints and an extra third-round pick. The year before that, they trade, significantly back, like from 6 to 12 with the Dolphins, and they pick up an extra first-round pick from them. So he's willing to do that kind of thing, whereas other GMs might press more for the immediate future than looking at the long term, like Howie can. And then also, he can take chances. That's one of the benefits of being the general manager of the Eagles, is I think Jeffrey Lurie allows Howie and their decision makers to take chances on players and just generally and just on general concepts, and giving them the freedom to do that sort of allows them to hit big on some of the decisions that they make. So Yeah, I think Howie is uniquely positioned compared to other GMs around the NFL, where he can take these chances, and certainly they've put themselves in the position to take a chance on a player like Jalen Carter, given the the very good locker room leadership that they have, starting at the top at quarterback with Jalen Hurts, and then all these guys that have been around forever, like Jason Kelsey and Lane Johnson and Brandon Graham and Fletcher Cox, and right on down the line. So, I mean, you put this guy in the Eagles locker room, I think maybe you give him a better chance to succeed, especially in the defensive line room with Fletch and BG. Whereas if he goes to another young team that's trying to rebuild, maybe you don't have as good a chance, is the way I'll put it, of maximizing his potential.
All right. Speaking of that maximized potential, this question is kind of for both you guys. Jimmy, you first, but John, since you are a day in, day out beat reporter as well, I think you need to chime in here too. I was pretty disappointed in Howie Roseman. We're going to take a shot at Howie Roseman. I'll give you one.
All right.
He was a little put off by Reuben Frank asking him questions about the first round draft pick and how dare you? It's his exciting day. He's coming into the National Football League. Why do we have to go there?
Nick too, by the way. They ganged up on poor Reuben.
Exactly. More so Howie, but Nick too. The reason that it's a legit question is because he went number 9 when he was either the first, second, or third ranked player. There has to be an explanation for it. Oh, maybe it's because of the off-field issues that he has. Very legitimate question by Reuben, and he was treated shabbily by those he was questioning.
Howie made up on Saturday.
Okay. You tell me all hunky-dory. They kissed and hugged and made up fine. But now you guys have to do the same thing. Because you can't just, all right, now he's an Eagle. We're not going to worry if he's out there speed racing down South Street. No, it's still a legitimate question. And you guys are going to have to still legitimately on the record or off the record ask people around the organization, hey, how's the kid doing? How's he fitting in? Are there any issues? You may or may not get answers. They may circle the wagons and you guys may be whistling in the wind. But you got to do it because it's the right thing to do. How tough is it going to be this year doing that, Jimmy K?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's sort of an area of covering the team that's a lot more difficult to kind of get information on, because they're not going to talk badly about a player typically, whether it's his teammates or any coaches or anyone in the front office. They're just not going to slam a guy when they're trying to get the most out of them. So you're not going to see leaks of him being disruptive unless it's right in front of our faces and we can report it. So yeah, I don't know. It's going to be tough to figure out really whether things are working out with him from a personality standpoint. Again, like I said, I think the Eagles are as well positioned as anyone to have taken this kid. But yeah, I mean, it's they're going to do everything they can to support him. And I think that started with, the umbrage that they took with Rube's question. They want to protect them. So I can understand from their perspective, why they want to help this kid come along and be the best player in person for the team that he can be. But again, yeah, it's gonna be tough for us to be able to tell. I guess some players, if they really don't like him or something, then maybe they come to us and then they say something to us. But it is noteworthy that he already has a couple teammates on the on the Eagles roster, and Nakobe Dean and Jordan Davis, and the Eagles would not. Howie Roseman was asked actually about that. Did you go to those guys and ask them what they thought of Jalen Carter? And Howie basically didn't want to answer that. He didn't want to put the pick on those players. He didn't want to say, we have to do our job and we have to make sure that he's the right fit for our team and blah, 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 blah. So, he wouldn't say, we're not going to put he said, we're not going to put the pick on them, but certainly they went to them and they asked for their opinions on this guy, no question. And, if either of those guys said, stay the hell away from this guy, then they probably wouldn't have drafted him. So I would imagine that they at least gave him passing grades in terms of what he is as a person.
Yeah, at some point, Jimmy, I brought back the cohabitation matrix that Joe Douglas and Howie had when they would say, hey, you were with so-and-so anywhere. What do you think? And he mentioned, he did admit that, of course, we ask other people who have been around him, but you also have to be cognizant of these are his friends too. So,
Right.
they're logically going to say, oh, he's a great guy, this and that. So a lot of it falls on the hands of Dom, Big Dom, that how he always references Dom DeSandro. And they're doing their due diligence. But I got to tell you, Jimmy, I mean, first impressions, he seems like a good kid.
Yeah.
He I think he's a little bit immature. The Kirby Smart supposedly was telling people the truth. Maybe he's a little bit immature, but he's not Al Capone here. He's not, he's not John Dillinger. I think, and I think I was pretty immature at 21, 22. I think that's kind of natural. I can't believe at the end of the day he lasted to number 9. This is the best player in the draft, in my estimation. I mean, people are handing things to the Eagles because they don't have the testicular fortitude to go down these routes. Fair or unfair?
That they have the fortitude to take a player like this, you mean?
Yeah, other teams don't.
Absolutely. I think that's fair. Like, it's crazy to me that he also made it to 9. They were trying to get up, evidently, to like 6, 7, and 8, and 9. The cost was just too high. And then he almost falls into their lap. And 9, they give up a 2024 4th-round pick to move up to 9 to get him from 10. So, yeah, I mean, I think there's certainly some. I think we got to see how the player pans out too. Like, if he turns out to be like a Hall of Famer, then obviously, then these other teams that passed on him are going to look really foolish for not having done the right homework or not having, as you put it, the testicular fortitude to pull the trigger on a guy like this. But yeah, it's like we said before. I think it's kind of starts at the top where Jeffrey Lurie allows them the freedom to take chances on players like this, and they did.
All right, the draft has come and gone. Eagles will be running some guys in, undrafted free agent workout and the like. We're a good chunk of the way through the year on the roster building, but as we learned last year, it's not over until opening day because Bradbury shook loose in June, and they trade for Chauncey Gardner-Johnson within the week of the start of the season. But the start of the season is going to get here at some point, and we're going to find out probably next week how the Eagles' schedule lays out. We know who they're going to play. We just don't know when and where. Peter King, in his Monday morning quarterback column this week, suggested the Eagles and the Giants to potentially play on Black Friday, that Amazon's going to get a game on the biggest shopping day of the year. They're writing this mega big check to the National Football League, so they're going to have enough gravitas to dictate the NFL play on a Friday. If it's Eagles Giants on Black Friday and you guys are covering the game, either here or up the turnpike, what time do you want to see the game start?
Well, isn't it supposed to be an afternoon game?
Is it already scheduled this afternoon? I haven't seen that.
My understanding is that it's an afternoon game. I don't know if that means it's at 1 or if it's at 4.
I mean, I'll always default to 1. Jimmy knows that. I mean, every game should be at 1. Every period. End of sentence. Easy answer.
Absolutely.
Night games are the worst thing in the world. I'll live with a 4 o'clock game. I think you're right, though.
You could suck it up and cover a 4 o'clock game if need be. You too.
Yeah.
4 o'clock is fine. It's the night games that are the really brutal one. Not to get too focused on ourselves and our jobs here.
Oh no, please feel free. I went down that road. I took you down that road. Keep going.
The brutal one for me was whenever they played Green Bay in the preseason, because those are always night games on like a weekday. And whenever I've gone to Green Bay, I fly into Milwaukee and I stay in Milwaukee. So it's like a 2-hour drive to Green Bay. Yeah. So you're doing the 2-hour drive to Green Bay, you cover that game, and then you're driving back to Milwaukee. You're not getting back to your hotel in Milwaukee until like 4 a.m. And it's, I don't know if you know anything about Wisconsin, but the road from Green Bay to Milwaukee, not a lot there. Not a lot to look at.
But how about Monday night games against the Giants? Getting on that Jersey Turnpike
You're driving along in the car at 3 a.m. rolling the windows down, slapping yourself around a little bit just to stay awake.
Been there, done that. But coming out of that
There's
stadium,
some bad weather
over
games in recent years. Poor Dave, our buddy Dave Zangaro, he got the lightning strike going up to.
His car got hit by
yeah,
lightning.
Going up to MetLife Stadium. That one time driving back a couple years ago, I couldn't see, man. It was unbelievable, the downpour. So we've had some issues.
And Chicago this year, that I walked to the stadium from my hotel, and that's one of the coldest experiences I've had in my life.
Was bad. That was bad. Jalen couldn't feel his hands. He was telling the truth. It was bad in Chicago. All right, back on the field. One aspect of this team. And I agree with the Eagles for the most part. I think they make smart decisions. I say it all the time. I think they're correct to devalue running back. I think they're correct to devalue linebacker. But, man, they got nothing at all-ball linebacker.
Yeah.
As we stand here today. I think Nakobe Dean's got a ton of promise. What did he play last year? 36? What was it? 36 snaps?
There's a lot in the one game against the Titans I think.
And he looked good, by the way.
He looked good in that game, but otherwise, did not play much in the regular game.
Huge projection. Nicholas Morrow, who got not one red cent of guaranteed money. How do you not get anything in guaranteed money? We're going to pencil him in as a starter. Something's got to be coming, right? Off-ball linebacker.
Maybe those two guys will be a decent enough starting duo, and maybe they won't. But beyond those guys, the top two guys are who? Christian Ellis, who actually I think looked okay in like some garbage time games last year and was a contributor on special teams, and Sean Bradley, who played literally 0 snaps in the regular defense last year. None. Played on special teams, of course. No snaps in the regular defense. And then you have Davion Taylor. I don't know if the team has given up on him yet, but I certainly have. And then they signed an undrafted free agent who's got some athleticism. They're not the
Ben Van Sumeren. Michigan State.
Basically the one line pitch on him that seemed to, I don't know anything about the kid, but that seemed to pop up over and over again was more of an athlete than a football player. So you're not going to count on a UDFA anyway. But they're thin. It's very clear. I just put out a 53-man roster projection this morning, and they're not going to keep just 4 linebackers. But that's what they would have to do with their roster as is right now. So it is a stone cold lock. They're going to add a linebacker at some point. They have to add some kind of playable linebacker at some point between now and the start of the season.
Speaking of that 53-man roster, how many running backs you got on it?
4. Yeah, it's for me. It's DeAndre Swift, Rashad Penny, Kenny Gainwell, Boston Scott.
No Trey Sermon. Yeah, he's the odd man out.
5 running backs.
No, he's the. Remember last year? Was it last year when they were, Tay Gowan? We love Tay Gowan. We love Kerry Vincent. We love Mac McCain. And all of a sudden, James Bradbury shows up.
Right.
Yeah, but at no point with any of those young DBs did the coach talk him up the way he talked up Trey Sermon at the owners' meetings this year. After listening to him describe him, I thought he was talking about Gale Sayers, to be honest.
Well, he did get asked a direct question about Trey Sermon, and if you do that, you're gonna get this guy. You're gonna get this guy's awesome response.
Yeah, that's true.
He didn't bring him up on his own, is what I mean.
Okay, that's a fair qualifier. But again, you guys have listened to more than I have. I've listened to plenty. Coaches, be it either media sessions or sit downs and ornament. That was over the top.
For sure.
For a guy who had 2 carries during the year. 2.
That's right.
He had 2 carries during the year. He made him sound like he was all pro level.
Watch what they do. Don't listen to what they say.
Yeah.
Exactly.
2 early 3rd round picks. Second one because of the tampering, the big move up. So they go back to back. And those 2 guys got a chance to play, Jimmy. Give me a percentage on Tyler Steen winning the right guard job. They keep saying, we'll wait and see. He'll have with Steen. He'll have an opportunity to compete. Are we reading too much into they're not sold on Cam Jurgens at right guard? And then Sidney Brown, if you ask me today, I'd say he's probably going to be a starter at safety unless he completely, what's the bed in training camp.
Right. Yeah, safeties are the easier questions. So I'll answer that one first. But it's those three guys that'll be competing for 2 roster spots in Sidney Brown, Terrell Edmonds, and Reed Blankenship. And yeah, you take a guy that high, you take a safety anyway, that high in the draft, early in the 3rd round. I think the expectation is that he starts. I don't know if he'll start week 1, but he'll probably be starting at some point, like you said, as long as he doesn't S the B. So yeah, I think Terrell Edmonds is a legit starter, and certainly Reed Blankenship showed that he belongs in the NFL unquestionably, and with his play last season down the stretch. But yeah, Sidney Brown is like an extraordinary athlete and was very productive at Illinois. So I feel comfortable. I would feel comfortable with saying that, I agree. I think he probably will start in 2023. As far as linebacker goes, or sorry, what was the other thing?
Right guard, Tyler Steen.
So Tyler Steen. Yeah. So when Nick got asked whether he would have a chance to compete for a starting job, if he were to be asked if he could compete with Lane Johnson or with Jason Kelsey for like a starting job, if you were a right tackle or a center, you get laughed at, right?
Yeah.
But he did kind of acknowledge that, like, if he's better than Cam Jurgens at right guard, then he'll start. So I don't know. I think it's not a throwaway answer to a question. I think there's some legitimacy to the idea that he could take that starting job if he's just awesome in training camp. But I do think they feel pretty good about Cam Jurgens. Everything that, first of all, that I've seen of Cam Jurgens, and maybe we're just limited to some preseason games and training camp last year because we didn't get to see much of him during the actual season. But from everything I saw, like, he looks like a very legit player to me. And everything that the team has indicated about him is that they believe in him as a long-term starter at center, but also as a guy who can play, right guard in the short term. So I don't know. It's something to watch. I think at a minimum, what Steen gives you is another guy, almost like Jack Driscoll, who can, who has some tackle. It's weird because they announce him as a guard, and the narrative has changed from, well, he's a guard. Can he play tackle? He played tackle.
That's all he's ever played is tackle.
Yeah, he's ever played. He played tackle for years at Vanderbilt, and he protected Bryce Young's blindside the last year at Alabama. So, yeah, he can play tackle. He knows how to play tackle. It's just, in my opinion, can he play guard? So, but I do believe there's reason.
Now, here's real quick as a follow-up, Jimmy.
Yeah.
Because, they had Brandon Brooks and Isaac Seumalo moving over. And even that, you had that little pit stop with Landon Dickerson before Isaac got hurt.
Yeah.
These are all big guys. And I see a lot of Eagles fans, and I'll ask you, they say, well, the Eagles list Cam at whatever, 3, I don't even know, 3 hosts. And they somewhere in the range of Isaac. Isaac looks a lot bigger to me than Cam Jurgens. Number one, is that fair to say? Number two, do the Eagles want more size? I agree with you. They think Cam's a really good player.
Yeah.
But I think they prefer him at center, and obviously Jason Kelsey, movement skills. They've always wanted that bigger body inside at right guard.
I think that's right. And maybe the dynamic changed when Landon Dickerson, did play left guard, during the 2021 season, and he and Mailata were so together on that left side that maybe they just kind of shift the dynamic. Okay, well, we'll just move our big body guy over to left guard because it works so well next to Mailata. I remember, like, heading into the 2022 season, I thought Dickerson was just going to go right back to right guard. And, he's going to play just as well there between Lane Johnson and Jason Kelsey as he did on the left side. But they just kept him on the left side, and they threw Isaac in on the right side at right guard. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I agree. Like, certainly with the Brandon Brooks point, Brandon Brooks was huge. So, you think about the success that they had with him next to Lane Johnson. I think that anyone that you slot in at right guard in between Jason Kelsey and Lane Johnson has as good a chance to succeed as any other right guard in the NFL, playing between like the best center in the NFL. And in my opinion, the best offensive lineman, not just right tackle, not just tackle, best offensive lineman in the NFL in Lane Johnson. So whoever they put in there is going to be uniquely positioned for success, whether that's Steen or Jurgens. I think they really want to get Jurgens was a 2nd round pick, man, just a year ago.
Yeah.
He redshirted for a year. they want to get that guy on the field. They don't want a second-round pick not playing the first 2 years of his career, in my opinion. They want to get him on the field and at least get him some action. And then when Jason Kelsey eventually retires, he'll fill in at center. But I would say that Steen, in my opinion, is a long shot to beat out Juergens at right guard. But again, it was interesting that Nick did, welcome the. I think he really is what he's doing is he's welcoming competition there. Whereas it would be laughable to do that, like I said, with a guy like Lane Johnson or Jason Kelsey.
I think that's the best. When in doubt, have competition. Nick likes to use that competition word, and I do believe he believes it. But we did acknowledge that drift every once in a while. The coach can drift to hyperbole. Canton-bound Trey Sermon. He does like to talk in those type terms about, or did like to talk about, Zach Pascal like that, and what Zach Pascal brought to the team, and the type of player that Zach Pascal was. He's no longer an Eagle. Will the Eagles attempt to replace what Zach Pascal brought to the table at a wide receiver spot this year?
Yeah, they signed 2 undrafted guys in Joseph Ngata out of Clemson and Jadon Hazelwood out of, actually it was Jalen Hurts' teammate for a year at Oklahoma, transferred to Arkansas. But those are 2 bigger type of receivers, so they'll get a look in training camp. I don't know that you count on one of those guys to take on that Zach Pascal role as like your 4th wide receiver or whatever you want to call him. But they'll have a chance to show what they can do in training camp. I wonder if they'll add another receiver who can play on the outside at some point between now and the start of the season. They think of Quez Watkins as a receiver who can play outside because obviously, the Eagles are they've, if not the best 1-2 wide receiver duo in the NFL, and AJ Brown and Devontae Smith. I mean, certainly they're top 2, top 3. Beyond them, they just don't have much on the outside. So it's probably Quez is the guy that plays outside if either one of those guys gets hurt. And of course, they signed Olamide Zaccheaus in free agency. He's strictly a slot receiver. They have Britton Covey, who didn't get to play much really at all in the regular offense a year ago. But if he does, expand his role at some point, again, just the slot receiver. So they don't have much depth on the outside. I wonder if they'll try to bring in somebody else at that spot. And I wonder if actually Grant Calcaterra, backup tight end, might do some of the things that Zach Pascal did in the Eagles offense a year ago. Like, they weren't asking Zach Pascal to, catch many passes. And certainly you're not going to give a guy like that a lot of targets when you employ AJ Brown and Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert, and to a lesser degree, Quez and whatever running back you have, Kenny Gainwell, whatever. So I wonder if Calcaterra can maybe take on some of the role that Zach Pascal had in 2022. But it is a hole on the roster right now, and their depth at wide receiver would be concerning if they didn't have to worry about it last year because Brown and Smith stayed healthy. Yeah. If one of those guys went down, that's a trouble area.
Olamide Zaccheaus involved as well at wide receiver, potential slot receiver. But yeah, they're going to miss that. It's a nice luxury to have a blocking receiver like Zach Pascal, but it is a luxury. At Jimmy Kempski, make sure you follow Jimmy on Twitter. Check out his way too early 53-man roster projection. The reigning champion, by the way, Jody McDonald.
He won the roster contest this year.
Yeah, you got 2 former champions here. Well,
I had
Jimmy's
forgotten.
Champion.
My apologies, Mr. Kempski.
Yeah.
John is champion. You are.
John is a heavy hitter on that one. I would say the top 4 in that particular competition, John, me, Bo, and Jeff McClain are. We're all usually among the top performers in that.
All right, as Zangaro says, them fighting words. You guys puffing out your chest now. Wait till early September. He'll be ready for you.
I'm coming for you, Jimmy. I'm coming for you. Last one, Tanner McKee. I think a lot of people thought, when the Eagles brought in Marcus Mariota to be the backup, they wanted similar styles to Jalen Hurts. And then all of a sudden they do the 180. Hey, let's bring in a 6'6" pocket passer who can't move at all. Right. Did that surprise you at all?
Yeah, I thought that they were maybe going to lean toward a guy like Dorian Thompson-Robinson, who I think went 140th overall.
Yeah.
And then they took and then there was Jaron Hall,
Jaron
from
Hall,
BYU,
fifth rounder. Yeah.
who has some mobility. He went before Tanner McKee as well. I don't remember exactly when, but went before Tanner McKee. And then it was a surprise to me that they took a guy like Tanner McKee. It actually was more. That's a guy that really fit what the Eagles were drafting for a while when Carson Wentz was the quarterback.
Yeah.
Like Clayton Thorson, when they took him, that was not a surprise at all to me that they took sort of a bigger, not super athletic quarterback. And then they took Jalen Hurts, and it was like, wow, well, that's different than what I was expecting. So I think the moral of the story here is we don't really know what the Eagles value in quarterbacks. Actually, I guess we do, because Nick Sirianni has on several occasions listed the 4 traits that he prioritizes at the quarterback position, and he always does it in order too. The order is accuracy, decision making, ability to make plays off schedule, and then
no, there's one. You're right. It's accuracy first. Movement, decision making's 2. Movement is last. That's 4. Arm strength is 3. Arm strength is 3.
And the way he phrases arm strength too is not necessarily has to have a great arm. Just has to be able to make every throw.
Yeah,
has to be arm strength has to be above a certain line.
Yeah.
So he said about McKee that he's got the accuracy.
He's got the 3.
He's got decision making, and he's got good enough arm strength. Did not try to sell us the idea that he could run around. That would be easily refuted. I don't know if he's accurate or not. Like he threw, and I don't think completion percentage is a perfect measure of accuracy, but he's 63%, which isn't very high, particularly at the college level. That Stanford team stunk. So
I watched a bunch of Stanford games. They're a bad football team. That offensive line was Swiss cheese. And with his inability to make plays off schedule, he's kind of a sitting duck. So he'll be much better behind the Eagles' offensive line. All right, Jimmy, last one from me.
Sure.
The Eagles have this newfound respect from the league office. Somehow they got paid off for being tampered with when other teams in the league did not. Don't know how this started. Don't know where it came from. Just sit back, smile, and take it. Let's say a call comes in from Roger Goodell to Jeff Lurie this week, and he says, we appreciate everything you do. Feel bad for that last-second field goal, Harrison Butker. We're thinking about scheduling the Chiefs and the Eagles. Game 1, Thursday night, kick off the season. Definitely the Chiefs because they're the champs. But, Jeff, we'll let you say yay or nay. If you want to play, the game's yours. If you don't, we'll figure out somebody else, and you got to play the Chiefs later in the year. If Jeff Lurie is offered the chance to play first game of the season this year on Thursday night in a rematch of the Super Bowl, does he say yay or nay?
Hell no.
No.
Come on, it's first game of the season. Nothing tastes better than quickly gotten revenge.
No.
I want to win week 1. Yeah. They might beat the Chiefs, but I'll take the gimme.
Yeah, John kept telling me after the Super Bowl they actually had the better team, so why not take them on again first game of the season?
I think they did have the better team. Jimmy, where are you?
I would say
they had the better team.
Oh, absolutely. I think if they play that game 10 times, the Eagles win at 6, and we kind of saw that in the first half, where they were dominant, and then.
Yeah.
Well, then should Jeff Lurie ask that of the commissioner at the end of the year? Can we play 6 out of 10 rather than just 1? Where the best team doesn't necessarily win?
Yeah. No, the best team doesn't win all the time. Jody argues with me. I mean, it happens every week. There's upsets. Crappy teams beat good teams. The best team doesn't always win.
I'm not arguing with you on that. I'm arguing that the better team won the game. They both finished with the same exact. They both finished with the same exact record in the regular season. The Chiefs played a tougher schedule than the Eagles did. The Chiefs had a tougher time coming through the playoffs, and then they played each other, and one team won and one team didn't. I don't know how you can't take the team that accomplished.
My personal opinion is that's the best team I've ever covered. I say it's better. Well, that's that of Jimmy too. We got to get. I apologize, Jimmy.
No,
we
got to
get you out of here. I think the last year's Eagles team was better than the Super Bowl winning Eagles team. And I don't think it was even that close, to be honest.
Yeah.
Best team I've ever covered. They didn't get it done at the biggest stage. If they get one defensive play, it's a totally different conversation. Hey, I think they were the better team. I'm not saying it's a blowout. Kansas City's very good. I have tremendous respect for Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid.
Sure.
They're a very good team, but I think the Eagles had the better team. That's why Howie was so stinking depressed afterwards. He's like, damn it.
Well, they're also favored in the game, too.
Yeah.
By what, like 2 or 3, 2.5?
No, it was a point.
Oh, okay.
I think
it was a 1.5.
One point favorite. Jimmy, good stuff. Always a pleasure, buddy. We appreciate whenever you jump in. The new schedule will be out. We'll get you back on again after that. Thank you very much for joining us today.
All right, guys. Take care.
Thanks,
Jimmy Kempski, PhillyVoice.com.
We got to meet Charlie Kempski. I'm excited by that.
Oh, Charlie the Pooch, yeah. A four-man spot here on Birds 365. Mac and Jimmy and Charlie. That's not a bad quartet. All right, Jody Mac, Johnny Mac coming back. Mike Gill's going to join us in less than 20 minutes now, so you want to stay with us on Birds 365.